What is up? Hey, I just posted that Tarrant County Appraisal District is delaying property tax value notices going out, and they in recent years they've gone out April 1st. They originally planned to delay it to April 15th. That has now been delayed to April 20th, and there's a good chance that it will be delayed even further. So I mentioned that posted that on my personal page and company page, and then people started sending me questions right and left, and then I started to answer them and just thought, my gosh, there's kind of a lot of information. If I don't want to do a mile-long post, then I should just go ahead and shoot a quick video. And I've been going live a lot lately, so why stop now? Here we are. For those of you that don't know, I am quarantined in the garage because my family went on vacation to Seattle, and flying back, passing through the Seattle airport, coming back home. When people find out we went to Seattle, it's obvious that we shouldn't mix with people, so we decided to quarantine. Family homeschools in the house, and so I have been quarantined to the garage here to prevent from waking folks up. All right, value notices are delayed. Here's the thing: all of the appraisal districts in Texas, or there's a coalition of appraisal districts in Texas that are part of an association or whatever, and that association has been appealing to Governor Abbott to try to account for the nightmare that could happen if value notices come out and values are substantially higher, and then everybody tries to protest. Because what happens is in the protest process, there are several different levels of protest. You can see some of my other videos to get more information on that. But the protesting that everybody thinks of, that we're all concerned about, is the in-person protesting, where massive amounts of people go down to the appraisal district. They all sit in line. They all sit in a small room, and there are a large amount of senior citizens that are activated into this crowd because they're all concerned about bills, and it's just an older population tends to be homeowners anyway, and so we've got a potential for a massive breeding ground for this virus, and for folks that are in the population that's at higher risk to be susceptible to getting the virus. And so the appraisal districts are very concerned about this. I can speak for about TAD specifically. TAD is very concerned about this. The board of directors are concerned about this. There was an emergency board of directors meeting, and then TAD had an advisory council meeting, and they are doing everything they can to brainstorm to try to figure out how to make life easier on everybody. And their top concern is the staff at the appraisal district, because if they can't do their job, then the whole system will fall apart. They got to make sure that the staff does not get infected. That's their that's their number one responsibility. They got to keep those folks healthy. And then the second thing is the public. They don't want the public coming in and creating a breeding ground for the virus. And then beyond that, we're going to have the economic impact of this whole thing. When values are skyrocketing and people are losing their jobs, and now all of a sudden they're going to have to pay higher property tax bills, then that's a big concern as well. And so there's just multiple levels of on how this can create a problem. So one of the solutions that they were proposing was to take the 2019 property values and roll them over to 2020. Well, that would work decently well for a good number of properties. However, there is this other issue where even if they kept the market value the same, that's the market value is their opinion of what the home is really worth, even if they kept that the same, but maybe the taxable value or the homestead captive value, that if that value has been depressed, or what am I trying to say? Repressed, depressed, whatever, if it's been suppressed in previous years because of the homestead exemption, then that amount will still jump up, because if it will keep jumping up until it becomes even with the market value of the property. So the next step is, well, if they kept market values the same, which the appraisal district may be able to do, they may have the authority to do that much, but they would not have the authority to continue to suppress those values and increase and prevent that cap to value from jumping up until it becomes even with the market value. So if you had that value increase happening with the cap jumping up 10% every year, then they would still have to send out notices, and you would still have a pretty good public outcry about issues going on with increased property values. Okay, so they need Governor Abbott's support to be able to keep those things frozen. However, there's a bigger issue at play here. We just passed Senate Bill 2, which is the major property tax reform bill. Now, that bill, it capped the amount of increase that the taxing entities can implement through the tax rate. Okay, and so if they can't increase the tax rate all that much, then they would depend more heavily on increased values to create the revenue that they need to satisfy their budgets. Okay, so the tax rates have been capped at a much lower value than they were past years, and so already the school districts, the city, the county, they're concerned that about this new environment of having this cap in place, and so they're concerned that there may be some revenue issues there, but they're going to deal with it and it's going to be fine. However, if they were to freeze the values from one year to the next, then that could create even more issues. And so Abbott's got to consider this whole spectrum of problems, and the whole environment of what's going to happen this year with property taxes. And so I think that he's probably going to be pretty reluctant to give his blessing or allow the values and the caps to remain frozen from 2019 to 2020. I think that's fairly unlikely, considering that we just passed SB 2. Okay, so that's one element of this. There are other possible solutions. Another solution would be if Abbott would allow the whole system to just get delayed. Then it could allow enough breathing room for this virus to die down, hopefully for people to either not lose their jobs or to get hired back with their jobs, to get the income coming again, and hopefully if they could even delay when that tax bill is due, then they could push the whole process back. So as of right now, all the tax bills are going to be late if they're not paid by January 31st of 2021. Okay, so then you just start backing up from that point. So the next most recent, the next deadline just before that will be they're going to send the tax bills out sometime in October. Right before that, all the taxing entities have to come up with their budgets. Right before that, the appraisal district has to certify the values. And before that, all the protesting has to be done. And before the protesting can even start, they have to send value notices back. So if they can delay that tax bill, they can push that entire calendar forward a month or two, hopefully let the virus die down a little bit, and hopefully allow for a little bit of an economic rebound in order to be able to just give this whole process the breathing room that it needs to be able to function without a tremendous increase of the virus, just ballooning, or creating hopefully a little bit more breathing room for the economic impact of this whole thing. All right, so one more thing. This is not good news whatsoever, but this is something that you need to know. People have been asking me, hey, what do you think values are going to look like this year? With all this mess going on, surely real estate can't be just booming. Well, some of the data, I'm keeping my finger on the pulse of the data that's happening, of the market as it's happening on a day-to-day basis, and I'll tell you, it's actually pretty strong right now. We've seen a slight drop off in some areas. Of course, mortgage rates have been going completely wacky, but none of the actual current market trends are going to affect the property tax values all that much, because when you do finally get your value notice, it's going to be the value that the appraisal district proposes will more than likely be the value that the property was on January 1st of 2020, which is before all this mess started. And so the property tax value that you have currently, if you go to the appraisal district website, you look up your property and you see the value that your property has right now, That's actually what they think the value was of January 1st of 2019. Okay, so the increase that you'll see is the increase between January 1st, 2019 and January 1st, 2020. Okay, and so I hate to tell you this, but you just need to know the value increase is probably going to be pretty sizable. We've had a tremendously strong real estate market over the past year, and when they send value notices out, they're going to reflect the value that they think it was on January 1st of 2020. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is that if you protested last year, because of some of the language change in the SB2 bill, the appraisal district has a little bit more leniency to keep values the same for properties that were protested on last year. So if you protested last year, or if we protested for you, and your property value was, reduced, or there was some decision made or a waiver signed or anything along those lines, there's a much better chance that you're not going to see a value increase this year. So that's good news. The value increase, when I say value increase, what I mean by that is what they think your property is worth. They're not going to increase that more than likely. However, you still have this issue of the homestead cap. If the taxable value has been suppressed, and in Tarrant County, when I say taxable value, what I mean by that is the appraisal, the terminology they use is totally confusing. They call it the appraised value. It's not what an appraisal would show if an appraisal was done. The appraised value on their website, it actually means the homestead capped value. If that number is suppressed, if it's below the market value, even if you protested last year, even if they don't raise the market value, that capped value is still going to probably increase. It's going to take some kind of executive, decision from the level of Governor Abbott to keep that suppressed at all. All right. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'm going to read some notes that I have while I give you guys a chance to comment, and then I will answer as many questions as you have before I hop off of here and get back to work doing other things. But let's see here. Yeah, Abbott's got a tough job. I can tell you this. The appraisal district I can speak for Tarrant County specifically. They do not want to raise values. They do not. They have to do their job, though. They want to do everything they can to eliminate as many protests as possible. They want you guys to be happy with your values. They don't want people coming down. They don't want staff getting sick. And so there are some legal constraints that they have where they've still got to do their job unless they get some kind of legal waiver where they won't have to. The best thing that we can do is hope that they delay. And I asked Chief Appraiser, would it help if I helped to rally a bunch of people to petition the government to try, or petition specifically Governor Abbott to try to get a delay or get some kind of waiver so that they could roll the cap or roll the values from 2019 to 2020. And he just said, I don't know. Sometimes when you cause a bunch of noise and we go and we send a bunch of messages and call them and bug them to death, sometimes that helps, and sometimes it just aggravates them and causes the problem to get worse. So before I start ringing the alarm bells and saying that we need to go, raise a ruckus, they got a lot on their plate. They don't need to be dealing with stuff that they don't need to be dealing with right now, but they're going to have to deal with this sooner or later. And if it doesn't look like the winds are blowing in the direction we need them to blow in, if it doesn't look like they're going to make decisions to be able to address this the way it needs to be addressed, then I will definitely be sending emails out. I'll do live broadcasts, whatever, to try and raise awareness and give you contact information so we can make sure that this thing ends well. All right. I'm just looking through some notes here. Yeah, I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. Somebody said, how will COVID-19 affect property values? I already answered that question. Let me go back to some of the comments that are currently coming in. All right, I'm going to start from the top. Nice office. Thank you, Eddie. So this law is a joke. It's not a joke. The new law is... there's just multiple factors at play. I would like to have seen this SB2 law address property tax values instead of just rate. I think that most of the time politicians like to address the property tax issue by looking at the rate, because that's what actually, that more specifically affects the entire base of property tax revenue that's generated. And I say that, and at the same time I'm saying that, I in the back of my mind I'm saying, well, that's not entirely true, because values, it's a combination. What's up, Chandler? Anybody with the name Chandler is a friend of mine. But the dates for things going back to normal keeps changing. Yes, Crystal, we don't know. Everything's changing. This whole thing is just in flux, and I'm just going to keep updating you as I get news, as it's appropriate. Where's your whiteboard and sticky note goal wall on the office in the new office? Craig, don't worry. I will be back in the office soon. I've got one more week of this. However, being in the garage was totally cool until I start seeing 85, 90 degrees. Something's going to have to change from a personal situation. Will you lose your equity because of this? Corey, you will not lose your equity because of the property tax situation. You will lose your equity because of the coronavirus and the economic changes and buyers dropping off the face of the earth. However, I have a lot of optimism that things are going to change. The real estate market was very, very strong. The real estate market is not causing these issues. We had very, very strong economic fundamentals before we got into this. So I have a lot of faith that we're going to see things rebound. As of today, that's all I can speak for, is today, the real estate market is still strong. Now, that sounds shocking. It sounds crazy, but I promise you, I pulled the numbers this morning. The amount of inventory we have is super low. Sellers are hesitant to put their house on the market, but buyers are still there. So, Corey, your equity's not gone. If the virus sticks around, the virus will eat your equity. And yes, property taxes will play a role into that. But property taxes they always lag what's happening in the real estate market, and they reflect what's happening in the real estate market. But they will not cause your equity to erode. They will dogpile on the equity erosion that's always going on, and it will further cause issue, but it will not cause it will further exacerbate the issue, but it will not cause it because it's always lagging. Is this a good time to refinance? Samantha, great question. The refinance subject is just crazy. I feel bad for any loan officer out there. We've got some solutions that we can help you with. However, pay attention to interest rates. They are nuts. They were at like 3.8% one day. They dropped to 3.6%. And then we start seeing them drop to 3.4%. And then all of a sudden, and then the news was, hey, bond market's gonna get stronger because as stocks get weaker, that's what typically happens. And when the bond market gets stronger, then people then that drives interest rates lower. And so the word on the street was we're going to see interest rates in the 2% range. Well, that didn't happen. Instead, the bond market crashed, and so that shot interest rates up to like 4.6%. Now, with some of the stimulus stuff going on and the Fed buying mortgage-backed securities, that's propped the bond market back up. So interest rates are back down to about 3.8. It is enough to drive a loan officer crazy. I would say it depends. This is not like a refinance boom that's about to happen, but for sure there's an opportunity to refinance for some people, but it's not for everybody yet. Just pay attention to interest rates. And if you need help refinancing, holler at me. I can get you connected to the right folks. Thank you again for taking time to look into things. You got it. Chandler, love it, man. Keep up the great work. Is there any chance they could change the law to freeze values for those of us that don't plan on moving? Our values have gone up so much. I've heard rumors about that sort of thing, but California did something, I think it's called like Proposition 13, where and some other states do this, where they basically keep property tax values steady until someone moves, and then they make up for all the lost ground when someone moves. I don't see Texas doing that anytime soon. So I'm sorry, Leah, I wish I had good news for you. And what's the effect? I don't know what, Corey, I don't know what your question is in reference to. You said, what's the effect of what? I'm not sure. Interest rates, I would just say, keep an eye on them. They're probably going to stay pretty low for the foreseeable future. As long as the bond market stays strong, we're going to see low interest rates. We might not see the 2% level interest rates that we thought we would. But hey, I just reached the 20-minute mark on this video. I want people to watch it. I want you guys to share it. Word needs to get out on this, and I don't want the video to get too long because the meat of what I needed to share with you is in the first 5-10 minutes of this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and end this now. I am going to go live again at 2 o'clock today, as I have every day this week, and as I will until Friday this week, at the end of this week. So pay attention. Today at 2 o'clock, I'm going to go live with a counselor, a child counselor, and a homeschool mom, and a bundle of information to give help to the folks that are homeschooling their kids. And by the way, I thought this was going to be an easy one. I thought, man, there's so many resources out there for homeschool moms, but here's the thing. This is not a homeschool mom subject. Because it's not homeschool, it's public school at home, which is way different than homeschooling. And I've found out this issue is more complicated than it seems. We're going to give you as much information as we can, just trying to be a community resource. And so at 2 o'clock, we will do that. And then Thursday, part of this whole issue, we've got to think about emergency preparedness. So part of that is making sure that you have your pantry stocked up with the right foods, and foods that are not going to spoil easily, and foods that are still in stock at the grocery store. And the top of that list, when you add all that together, and when you look at the cost of foods, potted meat products are among the top. However, the only problem with potted meat products is the concern that your kids may not eat them. So on Thursday, we will find out which potted meat products kids will eat. And then Friday, I'm going to allow you guys an opportunity to jump on here with me and ask questions. I've got some new technology that is totally awesome. You'll be able to get on the video with me, and we'll be able to have a conversation live on video in front of everybody. It'll be cool. And you ask questions, and it'll kind of be like open lines. It's something I've never seen before. I'm kind of eager to do that. So that's on Friday. And with that, I am logging off here. If you have any questions, feel free to paste them in the comments below. Please share this video, tag friends with in it, whatever, and spread the word. Thanks a lot. Y'all have a great day. Bye.